Welcome to Gravity this season. Thanks for joining us. This month we'll be taking a look at skiing. We've broken it down into two series, kind of a bunny slope series and a black diamond series. So we'll kind of divide that up so there's some progression in the program. Skiing's a very seasonal sport, so there's some periodization built into the programs today. And just some facts on skiing. The United States Ski Association reports over 50 million lift tickets are sold per year. So you've got 50 million people going up and down the mountains every year. A lot of them on weekend vacations. Some of them are ski junkies, so we'll address that later. Now there's three different types of skiing. There's probably more than that. The three main types, you've got your alpine skiing, more your traditional stuff, going down the hill, carving back and forth. That's what most people are doing on their vacations. And then you've got your cross-country skiing. So back and forth, a lot of arm drivers in that sport. Both cross-country and alpine look very sagittal plane, but if you take a look at the dynamics of the biomechanics, you'll notice that there's a lot of transverse plane and frontal plane movement as well. And then there's telemark skiing. Telemark and cross-country, the big difference is that the heel comes up. With the alpine skiing or traditional skiing, you're going to see that our foot is kind of locked into dorsiflexion. So that's a big switch for the rest of the body to adjust to. So a lot of with the alpine skiing, the big component of that is to be able to turn, stop, carve, and you've got this giant orthotic on your foot. So you've got these long skis, they're kind of concave, they're bent, they're curved, they're thin in the middle and thick out here, more like an hourglass. So when you lean one way, dig the edges into the skis, you get that turn effect. So you'll see a lot of frontal plane stability required, but still some sagittal plane. Everything's really about fluidity and efficiency. So again, they all appear sagittal plane, but we're going to go into frontal plane and transverse plane movements. So we've got a very seasonal sport. We've got things that we've got to consider, people that are coming off of desk jobs and going into a training program and then up to the pre-season ski program. So hopefully this will be some great ideas, and I know that there are experts out there in skiing that know a whole heck of a lot more than I do. These are just ideas, a thought process to get you thinking about how to put together semi-private or private training programs in order to capitalize on that market. It's coming up, the ski season's coming up shortly, so start now, get those programs out. Again, start with the bunny slopes. Next month or a couple months down the road, you'll see our Black Diamond series. So thanks for joining us, and we'll start now. Welcome to the bunny slopes in San Diego. It's not very snowy out here, but it's relatively flat. That's what we want to start people out with. We want to give them success. So we're not going to send them straight up to the top of the Black Diamond Hill yet. We're going to start with the foundational program, a readiness program to get them set for the ski season. So right now, as if we're in an NFL training camp, we're starting with the training camp. Then we move into pre-season, and then we have them conditioned ready for the full season of skiing so that they can go through the season uninjured, have fun, get their money's worth. A lot of these people are paying lots of big bucks to bring the family out, so we want to get the full value out of that. A couple ideas you can throw out are to get a group of people together to train for 6-8 weeks before they go skiing. You can charge them up front, set them up for Tuesday, Thursday nights, whenever you'd like, and have them go skiing together. It might even be a promotional idea for your club. So when we take a look at readiness, we got to go back and look at the injuries. What are the injuries that happen with skiing? Well, we know that there are a lot of shoulder, there are a lot of wrist injuries, a lot of fractures, clavicle, humerus, ribs, everything upstairs that basically takes the hit when we wipe out. A lot of fast trauma when you're going into, maybe it's just a collision that's happening. Those are the things that we can't necessarily train you to avoid with regards to the fall, unless you want to get into some on-ground prone function, doing some explosive stuff on the ground, getting the wrists, ankles, and shoulders all set for that. Add it, that's fine. However, we're going to try to create a strong foundation so that we can eliminate the wipeouts, so that we can teach them to be able to control from the core, that proximal stability before they get into some of the distal stuff. So strong foundation, maybe they're able to ski a little bit longer, maybe they're able to get through that first day with a lot of delayed onset muscle soreness so that they can return the second day. The crazy stat out there is only 10% return the second day during a ski trip. So we're going to try to get more value out of that ski trip. Another big injury, we take a look at the knee. We know that the knee gets injured. Up to 30 or 40% of all ski-related injuries, or that people are treated, is our knee injuries. So we get meniscal tears, we get ligament strains, we get sprains, we get tears, everything down at the knee. And that is usually caused by the fact that our ankle, we've got this big boot wrapped around our ankle, right? And it's kind of locked in dorsiflexion. Now the foot can wiggle jiggle around there a little bit. You still get some triplanar movement down at the ankle. However, it's pre-positioned in flexion. So that is a increase in stability down there, or an artificial stability, which is going to create more torque at the knee. So if the ankle can't move a lot, then you go up to the next joint, the knee ends up taking the hit. So we're going to look at preparing the body for that by preparing them into a dorsiflex position and then using the body upstairs, top-down drivers in order to stimulate those muscles, those proprioceptors in all three planes so that we can get them a little bit ready for that. With regards to the principles, all the principles of skiing are, we know it's a standing, hopefully, right, it's a standing activity. There's ground reaction force. Gravity is obviously going to have a big effect on skiing. That's what skiing is all about, really, gravity. And then we have our momentum of mass. We have big reactions with the ground, and we know that it's driven. So we drive the body with the top down, meaning that we may dig a pole into the ground and work around that pole, or we may just simply lean the lower body one way to get those nice concave skis to turn. So it's reactive. It's just basically steering the ship. But when people go out and they're skiing for the first time, they're overcompensating, they're doing a lot of things, they're stopping every time they turn. We want to get them to have a nice flow and be familiar with their body before they hit the slopes. So our strategies that are based on our principles are, for one, is we want to increase the stability of the lower extremities, basically from the ankles up. So we know the ankles are locked in. We're going to go after the knees in different planes. We're going to go after the hips in different planes. And we're also going to go into the whole trunk. So the whole system stabilizes and reacts to forces that we're going to throw at the client. We know that it's that skiing it's a shock absorption. When you're going down those hills, you got lots of bumps, lots of variations in the hill or the snow, that we want to get a lot of different variations in our transformation zone, meaning that when we go from eccentric to concentric, we don't always want to be at the top or at the bottom, but in between. So we're taking hits at the top, at the bottom. You can kind of see what I'm doing there. Hopefully it shows up on the camera. So we want to be able to absorb force, bottom up, top down. Now in the frontal plane, we know that when we ski, that you're going to be driving in the frontal plane quite a bit. You're also going to have to be strong. And you know that when you have force going across this way, that although the leg is adducting, we're firing up the abductors of the hip, not the adductors. The adductors really have nothing to do with hip adduction. It's kind of a problem that we have, unless you're lying on the ground and you want to slap your legs together up like a seal. Then our adductors are adducting. However, this particular adductor on this side might be decelerating my right hip adduction. So more on that in the functional world, but however, we're just going to know that we need to decelerate the foot from going this way. We need to be able to get the body strong in order to push off one way or the other. Another thing we're going to do is prepare the knee by addressing the calf. So we're going to do some activities. We're in a prone position. We're going to go and drive the knee in different positions. We're going to get some frontal plane stability with the hips. And then we're really going to focus on getting that stability. So when you're skiing, you're in a flexed position, a lot of flexion, basically ready to absorb force. Our lumbar spine is in flexion. We're kind of in a loaded position here. So we might do activities that kind of tweak that load. So we're flexed, and then we add in a different plane like the transverse plane or the frontal plane in order to have a more rounded athlete with regards to three-dimensionality. So this program is about preparing them for the program. So we're going to bring in Nicole for help. Just like the knee, Nicole's kind of like the knee today. Nicole's going to take the hit for me, do a lot of the movements. The knee takes the hit for the body. A lot of times it's kind of stuck in between the foot and the hip, and it takes that hit. So it takes all these beatings and beatings. So Nicole is my knee today. How's that? So welcome, Nicole. We're going to start off with a dynamic warm-up, and what we're going to do is the cardio pull. You know the exercise. We won't spend a lot of time on it, but we're going to get Nicole set up for just a cardio pull with about 460 variations. How's that sound? Does that work all right?
I like it.
So we're going to get her set up, just a basic general cardio pull to start off with, and we're just going to fast forward so these tapes don't get too long. We're going to have her do variations, and we're going to start with the variations at the feet. So first we're going to go toe out. And each time we make a little change, we change the stimulus through the proprioceptors and the muscles and the soft tissue all gets changed. Then we're going to go toe in. And what we'll do is we'll start with a big circular motion with the arms, and then we'll go staggered. So our feet will be right foot forward, left foot back. And again, you can go 10 of each, 15 of each, either way. And then you're going to go left foot forward. Good, so these are sagittal plane tweaks, and then we go frontal plane tweaks. Let's go wide with the right foot forward. There you go, nice. So each time we do this, all those nice long muscles in the calf are getting lengthened a different way. Let's switch feet. Very good, big circles, reverse the circles with the arms. This is like Simon Says, right? This is fast forward version. And now we'll start to introduce a little plyometric. So we'll bring the feet together, kind of like we're skiing, and we're just gonna have a little assisted plyometric. So she's gonna do little baby hops. And then we'll go right into skiing, back and forth in that transverse plane. Just a nice little dynamic warm-up. Each time her foot hits the ground, there's a little message that gets sent up through the system. Everything reacts to that. You're kind of mimicking ground reaction force. Arms and shoulders getting warmed up. I love this exercise because you can do so much with it. Again, you can do 100 variations or 100 repetitions and you'll be all set. So let's just assume we've gone through 4, 5, 6 minutes of this. And now what we're gonna do is take these handles from her and we're gonna go to what we call Squat City, Utah, meaning that we're gonna do the same thing, but take the arms out of the equation so that we can increase the demand of the lower extremities. So we're getting them used to that shock absorption. We're getting them used to dynamic loads. We're not gonna do a lot of static stuff because skiing is not a static sport. So when you see people do ski programs where they do the wall squats and just stand there, that functionally isn't the best thing for skiing because you've got loads, different variations. So we're gonna go just a regular bilateral squat. You know the squat variations. You learn them in your 8-hour courses. Or you can look through your manual at home and you see the basic squat. These might give you new ideas to vary those. So then we're gonna do that same thing. Maybe we'll go right foot forward, go through a little bit of a squat. You can see here that that left foot, because it's pre-positioned lower, is getting a little more what we call dorsiflexion. So the calf is being stimulated a little bit more. We'll go ahead and switch it up. This is a fast forward program. This way we get the heart rate up, we get the metabolic conditioning that's needed for a long day of skiing. And now maybe we'll just go more like a skiing squat. We'll go feet together and then we'll just roll on the heels back and forth. And what I'm gonna do now, because we've gone through a warm-up, we're just gonna assume that we've gone through a nice dynamic warm-up. I'm gonna start to add a little bit of load. And I can do this by placing a weight in her hand. I can do it by adding our weight bar accessory, putting up to 200 pounds on there. Or I can just sit on the glide board and she can take me for a ride, right? Okay, so then we take it up a notch and we go out to unilateral stuff. So we're gonna use her left leg on the squat stand and do that same thing. Now I can really take advantage. You can build in your rest periods if you'd like, that's fine. And just do different things. Put the foot in different positions. If somebody has pain in the knee, try some of these different positions so that you can get into a nice pain-free range of motion. We never want to work in pain, we want to find a way around it. So that's what we call Squat City, Utah. It means that you can do lots of different variations of the squats. You can come up with these programs, put them together and create a real nice rounded dynamic warm-up for the lower body. When we get into the plyometrics, again, you're getting that deceleration. They're taking that impact, you're going through that eccentric lengthening and then powering back up. So just like you're going down the slopes, same type of stuff for the lower extremities. Excellent. So what we're going to do now is go into more of a trunk stability exercise. So if you've taken our post-rehab course, this is an exercise that's from that called the unilateral, or the row with unilateral pull, we'll call it. How's that? We'll tweak it a little bit just to keep things fast. So we're going to pre-position her in a kneeling position. And what we're going to do here before we give her the handles is typically the client will sit back on their knees, or their heels. We're going to basically tilt her spine forward, keep her right there, and as she's there, we're going to lift the hips up until she feels like she's just about to fall forward. So what we've done now is we've loaded the trunk. We've loaded the posterior back. So we've got the lumbar spine loaded. Now it's loaded in the sagittal plane. Now we can take the cable and add this just to her right arm, and she's gonna feel real unstable at the beginning. And what she's gonna do is, with the sagittal plane load, because in skiing, you're flexed, you're in a flex position, you're taking force back and forth, you're absorbing force, but we're not getting forces unless we add like a cable that's gonna add a transverse plane force to a sagittal plane loaded lumbar spine. So this is a real nice movement where she just drives the elbow straight back, eyes right on the handles or the elbow. And if you want to sneak in a little cervical rotation, this might be tricky. I'm going to throw a curveball right now. We might do a left head turn as we pull right. There we go. This is Simon Says now. So she drives it back. Now we're getting a top down and bottom up driver to the cervical spine. Real nice exercise that, again, loads the lumbar spine, preloads it, and then adds a transverse plane variation to that squat. So the next thing we're gonna do, you can do both sides obviously, is we're gonna keep her in a kneeling position, and what we've got is some free weights, and I'm gonna switch it up on her. You can add free weights, you can add anything you want, because you've got someone in a kneeling position and the glide board's on a slope, so it's nice. I'm gonna start her off with real basic frontal plane drivers. So now we wanna get the trunk warmed up in the frontal plane so we can use those weights to eccentrically lengthen, and then the weight actually pulls you back down. So just like anything with function, gravity ends up doing a lot of the work here. So if I wanted to make it more difficult for one side or the other, I would only give her one weight. Now we can also take that up a notch. I'm gonna give her some lighter weights because I'm gonna ask her to do some dynamic stuff. Got our power blocks out here. And what she's gonna do now is, say we're gonna build up from this frontal plane stuff, now she's gonna start to shoot the weights out up to about shoulder height. Maybe just a little bit higher, make it a little easier on your shoulders. There we go. So we're getting all kinds of stability for the trunk, and we're getting some nice bonus material for the shoulders. And now we're gonna go opposite side overhead. So now she's gonna get a real nice lengthening. And what we're gonna do now is start to tweak the whole system here. I'm gonna have her stagger her knees. So one knee is gonna be a little in front of the other, and then do that same thing overhead. So now we're getting more stretch, a different set of stimulation to the trunk.
Yep.
And then we could obviously go back and forth. With those exercises, you can also tweak the stability factor, meaning that I've had her knees were fairly wide during that whole session. So if we wanted to make it more unstable in the beginning, we would just position her knees closer. Again, this is a readiness program, so I would just advise start wide. Okay, now we're gonna get into some plank work. So we're gonna get into that calf. We wanna prepare the calf for all that work in that flexed position, right? So we're gonna take the squat stand off, and we'll bring it up just a hair, just to make it a little easier on Nicole's upper body, although I know she could handle probably a decline variation of this. We're gonna keep the feet on the ground and then just go down to an elbow plank to start off with. Now I'm gonna shift over here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on this left ankle. So we've got it pre-positioned in dorsiflexion. And what we're gonna do is take that knee and drive it in the transverse plane. So she's gonna drive it over here and then all the way towards the camera, back and forth. Each time she does that, her leg is dragging that pelvis in the transverse plane. So we've got a dorsiflexed ankle that's getting real nice stimulation in the transverse plane and also the frontal plane, because she's got some nice hip shifting there. So this is a nice way to kind of stimulate, ready the calf for everything. And then I forgot one exercise, so we're gonna go back. Remember that you can do those you can progress up to a fully extended variation, and you could add all kinds of stuff here with regards to plank work, with regards to bringing one arm up and doing side planks, lots of variations. Love this position, because a lot of people can't do this on the ground. You can throw it up to level 8, and they're able to do it. They have the stability and the strength of the shoulders to do that. One last movement for our readiness program, and again, these are just ideas. This is not an actual program, but ideas to facilitate a thought process that you can come together with a much better program than I can come up with and sell it to your clientele. What we're gonna do now is, it's called a lateral position of a squat, and this is gonna be tricky to see with the camera, but what we're gonna do is, we've got this big muscle called the peroneus longus that kind of sneaks down, the fibular head comes all the way down the lateral malleolus and then sneaks under the foot and attaches up into that first metatarsal or near it. So you've got a nice connection, but it goes all the way under. So in skiing, in that frontal plane stability, we want to be able to have that muscle prepared for the rest of the stuff we're going to do in the Black Diamond program, as well as the slopes. So what we do is we get them in a side-lying position, and we're going to pre-position that foot way towards the top back, so even to where your heel fits right into my hand here. And she's just going to bring that other leg, she can either bend it or bring it forward, and as she goes into a little bit of a hop, what happens is she's going to land, and each time the key is to land with the big toe first. So the big toe takes that tendon, says, hey, I need your help, peroneus longus, help me out here. So she's going to go back and forth with these. They can be small hops, big hops, baby hops, but the key is to get the foot posterior lateral to the body. So these are just some simple ideas to put into your readiness program of the Bunny Slope Gravity This Season ski program.